Hello guys and welcome back to another tutorial, and today we're going to be working on Inverse Kinematics. So we're back in our Legend of Zelda series, and we're going to be implementing Inverse Kinematics into our walk cycle and into the game itself. Now, to start off, what are we going to be using it for? Well, we're basically going to be taking, for example, our feet here, and instead of having a predetermined animation, so if we're walking up in the air here, we're walking in the air, right? Well, instead of doing that, our feet will be planted to the floor. So it will detect the floor and say, okay, the floor is right here, let's put my foot down. And so the foot will go down on the floor instead of having a predetermined animation where it doesn't know where the floor is and it's kind of just walking and assuming there's a floor there. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, now that you've opened up a new scene in Unity, we can go ahead and get started, but before we do, I want to mention that this tutorial is very basic and linear, so a more advanced tutorial will be coming out later. So, I touched on it earlier, but we're going to be talking about Inverse Kinematics. So, again, I already talked about that earlier. If you don't know what it is, you can go ahead and just look it up. So, let's get right into the tutorial. We're going to get started by just basically creating our script, and it's a very simple script. So, let's go ahead and create this C# script, and we're just going to call it IK setup. So, if you guys did not know Inverse Kinematics, the short for that is IK. And actually, before we create this script here, before we open it up, we need to set up our animations to be actually able to do this. So, in our controller here, if you go over to our layers, alright, so for you guys, I don't know if this will be set up just right, but this IK pass thing here, so if you click the gear, IK pass will most likely be off for you. You need to make sure you turn that on, so IK pass is very important. Also, on your animations, make sure foot IK is enabled. So crouching foot IK is enabled, airborne foot IK is disabled, and that's what we want. So make sure all those things are set up correctly. And the last thing we need to do is set up our events, but that'll be later on. We can go ahead and open up our script in Visual Studio. Alright, so now that Visual Studio has opened up, we can go ahead and get started. And we're going to get started by creating our different variables and functions. You can go ahead and delete our update and start function for now. And we're going to go ahead and create our variables. So to start off, we need our two game objects. Our left foot and our right foot. And I'll explain what those are later. And what those are for. So our next one, public game object right foot. Or R foot. And next we need an animator. So we need to be able to access our animator. So public animator anim. And next we need two different positions. Our private vector 3, position right, and position left. The next variable will be a public boolean, and this one will be use IK, so if we want to actually use Inverse Kinematics. So the next two variables are basically going to be private booleans, and basically we're setting our right foot or left foot to active or to be inactive, on or off, and same thing with the left foot here. There we go. And that is it for the variables for now. And next are functions. Basically, we're going to create a public void stick right and stick left. So stick right and stick left. So next, basically you just copy that and paste it down here. Alright, and you're going to need the opposite of this. So the opposite of sticking is unsticking. So basically two more functions, except this time instead of stick, it is unstick. There we go. And that is pretty simple. And that is all we're going to need for right now. There's one more function, but we'll make that later. Now, let's get into why these functions are needed and why these variables are needed. So, why are two different variables needed for sticking and unsticking? Because that really doesn't make sense, right? Well, basically, we're going to be calling these functions from our animation events. And you could call them from, you could make one function that has everything in it, but then again, it's a little bit more difficult, so we're just going to be using it we're going to be doing it this way. So we have our functions and we have our variables. So now we need to get into actually writing what's in these functions. So we're going to start off in our stick function here, and we're going to start off by calling a raycast, or sending a raycast out. Now, what are we actually doing here? So we're going to be taking a raycast from our foot here. So let's go ahead and go into Unity here, and I'll show you guys. So we're raycasting straight down from our foot, and that's why we have our foot game objects. So we're going to cast straight down, and we're going to detect the floor. So if there's floor there, take our foot and plant it on the floor. That's basically what we're doing with that. And let's go ahead and go back into Visual Studio here. And we can go ahead and write that. So to start off, you need a raycast hit, and that's just hit, and a position. So vector3 raycast position. So raycast position equals new vector3. And this is basically getting the position of our foot, and also detecting what's in front of our foot. Alright, so this is, we're going to take our left foot, so this is our, actually we're going to use our right, sorry. So right foot, dot transform dot position, dot x. Then we're going to take the right foot, dot transform dot position, dot y. Plus 2f. So why are we actually doing this? So let's do the last one here. Dot transform dot position dot z. And there we go. So why are we doing this? Well, if we raycast straight down from our foot, we won't see things that are above our foot. So for example, our foot could go through the floor. If there's a stair and our foot is right below the stair, and we move one more time, just a little bit, our foot will go through the stair. That's because our detection is not above the stair. So we need to make sure that our raycast is shooting down from around the knee. So that is why we are adding that float there to raise our raycast up. Now, next we need to actually create our if statement. And this one will be pretty simple. We're just going to say if physics.raycast. And we're going to raycast from our raycast position. And we're going to go down, so minus vector3 to up. Or negative vector3 dot up, sorry. And we're going to out hit. Next, we need to make the distance. So how far out are we seeing? And you could put something like 100 here, or you could use something like 5. It really doesn't matter. And if you guys don't even want to put anything there, you don't have to. But we're just going to say around 100. So next, we're going to actually set our right position. So we're going to say position R equals hit dot point. So we are setting that. And why are we setting that? Well, that's because we're going to create a function later that uses that. And we're also going to set our right foot to be active. There we go. And that is it. So we can basically copy this over to our left foot. So our stick L. Copy that over and paste it there. And we need to change everything over from right foot to left foot. There we go. And left foot active to, or from right foot to left foot. And position right to position left. Now, that is basically it for our stick functions here. Now, again, we are calling these from an animation event, and we're taking this right here. So if we hit the floor, we're setting our right foot to be true and our position R to be the hit point. Now, unstick. What are we doing here? Well, this is definitely very simple. All we're saying is right foot or left foot to be false. So this is left foot active equals false. And right foot active equals false. Right. And now for the last function here, it is a automatically called function from the animator. So we're just going to say private void on animator IK. Now basically this is saying on the when the animation moves and when the IK is usable, this is what's going to be called. So in here, we're just going to say if we're actually going to be using IK, which we are, we're going to set that to automatically be true. Then after that, if the right foot is active, so we don't want to automatically put our foot to the ground, because in that case, we're going to be dragging along and our foot will never raise up. So it's going to look like we're going to be sliding along. So if our right foot is active, then do this. And if our left foot is active, now I'll explain more why in a minute, why we do this part right here, and why we're even checking for this stuff up here. Because you might say, well, why do we need this stuff? Why can't we just do this right here? Well, basically, we're going to be sliding. So I'll kind of show you guys what that looks like in a minute, just by removing this stuff here. And in here, we're just going to say anim. So we got our animator earlier, dot set, IK, whoops, sorry, set IK position, and we're going to say avatar, and we're going to set our avatar in here. So avatar IK what? Well, we're going to be using the goal. Avatar IK goal dot right foot, and position R. And right above that, we're going to be setting our weight. So, one thing you need to do is make sure you don't set the IK hint position. You need to just set the IK position. And right above that, set the IK weight. So set IK position weight. Make sure there's no hint there. And in there, we're basically just going to say avatar IK goal dot right foot, comma 1. And we can copy this and paste this to our left foot. There we go. And save it. Obviously, we need to change the foot and our position. And this should work. So I want to really quickly show you guys what happens if you don't do this stuff, if you don't check. And also what happens even if you do check. Obviously, you're going to need to be checking. But what happens if you have this unstick and this active stuff here? So why do we need these active bools here? Because it really doesn't make sense, right? Well, it'll make sense in a second. So let's go ahead and comment this out here. There we go. Save that. And it'll basically always be setting our IK position. Also, one other thing, you need to make sure your script is attached to your player. And we need to go ahead and set up other variables here. So our left foot here, so under our armature, go ahead and find your feet. So this is our right foot here. And our left foot down here. So you need to make sure you set your animator up. And check use IK. Alright, so this is basically set up. Let's make sure this works here. And as you know, we commented out what we did earlier. So if we walk here, it really just looks like a mess. Now, one other thing, we didn't really set up anything. So everything is just looking very strange. And we're kind of walking, just moving our arms and not even walking. So that is exactly why we need to use those bools. Now, we can't just play this from here. We need to do one more thing, and that's basically set up our animation events. So that's basically if we keep it like this, unfortunately what happens is we're moving our feet, but at the same time, they're always sticking to the ground, and we don't want that. So if we play this, nothing should happen. Kind of just, right, nothing happens. So we need to set up our animation events. So if we go to our animations here, so in standard assets, characters, animations, we're going to be using it. You can set it for a lot of things, but for now, we're only going to be setting it for one or two things, mainly because our animations will be changing in the future. So over here on our run animation, on our events, we're going to be using this right here. So we said why we're doing this, but we need to actually set it up, right? So let's go ahead and slow time down so we can see what's going on. And currently, we're going to be using our right foot and left foot. We're going to be setting our right foot first. So if we play this very slowly, our foot comes off the ground right there. So right here, we're going to say right, or unstick right, unstick R, and we don't need to set up anything else here. Alright, so we keep playing this, and we need to make sure right when we stick, right, so we touch the floor right there, so we're going to stick R. Alright, and back to the beginning of the animation here. We play this, and our left foot sticks right there, so we can set that up, stick left, and it unsticks right there. Right, so we can add that and unstick L. And if we play this currently, this should just work fine as long as we apply it. And if we go to link here, we can see that everything is working fine, or at least it seems to. Also, one other thing, we need to move our character just down just a bit, just so we can see it a little bit better. And this should be working now. Yep, it is working, because if you turn, our animation kind of messes up just a bit. Right, so if we go to our third-person controller, we'll also be able to see these little red things down there. And those are basically where our position is, our foot position, right? So we'll be able to see that this is actually working. So you can see if we zoom in on this guy here, those red dots are actually moving. So the red dots are moving from one position to the next, so from here to there. Right, you can see that one right there. And that is basically working. Now, we can test this out just a bit more if we go over to our testing position over here. So one, our stairs, it works a lot better. And if we walk into this mountainous place, you can see that our feet are currently set to the ground. And if we take a step and we pause it, also as you can see, our feet are at the ground. And this one is at least trying to touch the floor. So if we pause this as we are running, our foot is coming off the ground. So let's only jumps real quick. That's not exactly what we want. As you can see, our feet are affected by the environment, because right here, this one is going up here instead of just like down here, and this one is actually touching the ground. So that is it for this tutorial, guys. Thank you for watching. We basically set up our IK position, and in the next tutorial, we're going to be working on rolling, crouching, and swimming. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.